Although he was a universalist, theologian Hosea Ballou summed up the framework of prayer. Between the humble and contrite heart and the majesty of heaven, there are no barriers. The only password is prayer. But we have the capacity to erect barriers that go beyond humbleness and contrition. They cause us to lose our focus. Let's consider what's hindering our password. Hi, I'm Pastor Tom. There are many hindrances to prayer, those which the enemy generates and those that come from the cares and trials of this world. But many times we generate these hindrances ourselves by allowing distractions and soulish concerns and desires to take the center stage. But there's one hindrance that at times it's subtle, it's deceptive, and it puts on a disguise: well-doing. Luke 10:38-42. Now as they went on their way, Jesus entered a village, and a woman named Martha welcomed him into her house. And she had a sister called Mary, who sat at the Lord's feet and listened to his teaching. But Martha was distracted with much serving, and she went up to him and said, "Lord, do you not care that my sister has left me to serve alone? Tell her to help me." But the Lord answered her, "Martha, Martha, you are anxious and troubled about many things, but one thing is necessary. Mary has chosen the good portion, which will not be taken away from her." If I were to look at my life and identify one thing that has hindered my prayer life more than anything else, it would be being busy. It's a constant problem as I move through each day, especially when it involves the Lord's work. Sometimes it's like the mentally disturbed man that keeps banging his head against the wall. The more he bangs it, the more it hurts. And the more it hurts, the more he's focused on the pain. All the time the voice telling him to stop gets pushed deeper and deeper into the corner. Now that's when I find myself so caught up in the work of the Lord that I haven't even spent 1 minute of the day with him. Now in this scripture, we have that very same thing happening to Martha. She found herself getting all worked up because she wasn't able to hear what Jesus was saying while doing all the work. And there sat Mary at Jesus' feet. Now the word sat here means to sit beside, and it's only found here in verse 39. It's the perfect picture of where a disciple should be. It tells us that not only was she sitting there, she heard his word. She understood it. Now I can picture her sitting there very restful and attentive as Martha runs around in and out trying to serve the master. Now verse 40 tells us that Martha was cumbered. She was distracted as she scurried around serving Jesus, and she was bothered that her sister had left her alone to do the work. Bothered her so much, she scolded Jesus. "Don't you care? Tell Mary to get up and help me." Jesus, as always, hit the nail right on the head. Martha, Martha, anxious and troubled about many things. Don't we get that way sometimes when we're busy with our work? Sounds like a comment similar to another one from Jesus. Matthew 6:31. "Therefore do not be anxious, saying, 'What shall we eat? Or what shall we drink? Or what shall we wear?'" Jesus went on to tell Mary that she hadn't made a bad choice. Rather, she made the least of two choices. She could choose to be busy herself with the work serving him, which would die with her, a good thing to do. Or she could choose to hear his word like Mary, which would never be taken from her, a better thing to do. He told her that one thing is necessary. It's demanded or required. And that comes first. All the rest comes later. Mary had chosen the eternal thing, and Martha had chosen the temporal thing. Now, the first rule in communication is to focus on the person with whom you're trying to communicate. And then don't just listen, hear the message they're trying to communicate. Since prayer is communicating with the Lord, then it follows we first need to focus on him. And let me give you a great tip concerning focus during those times when you're being distracted by your mind. Pray out loud. You'll cut your mind right out of the process and eliminate the distractions. Our minds don't like to process more than one thing at a time, and the one thing making the most noise always wins. Ever wonder why the devil is hollering in your ear most of the time? Now, you know he isn't trying to scare you, although that's sometimes a byproduct. He's trying to distract you. When we're speaking, our mind turns everything else off. We love to hear our own voice. It really gets our full attention. We get so wrapped up in what we're trying to do and say for Jesus that we forget He just wants us to sit at His feet and hear His word. Now, if we'll get in the habit of spending a little more time praying and listening, our life will be enriched beyond measure. Now, we've all been distracted like Martha and at a complete peace like Mary. Which makes more sense? Whether our prayers are about faith, worship, confession, adoration, praise, thanksgiving, action, request, or intercession, they all contain a singular center of focus, Jesus. So, our challenge this week is to pause before we enter into prayer and realize that at that very moment, God is prepared to give us His full attention. The Creator has turned His ear to hear our petitions. Now, if we approach prayer that way, with that mindset, we'll be different. And as a result, our communion with Him will be on a whole different level. Too often our prayers get thrown up at the last minute as if we're passing along a shopping list. That shouldn't be the case, as the Lord has a special interest in hearing from our heart. And that means our prayers need to get below the surface. Remember, prayer is our password, but it's useless if we never use it. Now, thank you for joining us this morning. If you haven't subscribed and shared our messages, we would appreciate your help in waking up the bride of Christ as time grows short. You can also sign up for our weekly short blog posts on Mondays by going to our website and signing up. I have also put a link to a very important video that reminds us that God is ever vigilant in His reaching out to the lost, and you can help us by following His leading. That's a critical part of our journey from the cross to spiritual maturity. Have a great week in Jesus, and I'll see you here next Wednesday morning. God bless.